In today's episode of the Motorhome Matt Podcast,
we unpack everything you need to know about getting finance to buy a motorhome.
Plus how you can get your motorhome or caravan cleaned up ahead of winter storage.
And we answer your questions on winterized motorhomes, choosing insurance and buying a motorhome cover.
Welcome to the Motorhome Matt Podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
Industry insights and expert advice for the world of motorhomes, caravans and campervans. And it's brought to you by thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe.
Now remember, if you're listening, please follow on your favourite podcast app. Or if you're watching, click subscribe and the little bell on YouTube.
Our product feature of the week, it's the That Leisure Shop full cleaning range. The time of year has come where you should be polishing up your pride and joy. No, I'm talking about your motorhome.
There are loads of these. Look at this. We launched an entire range of cleaning products and care products for motorhomes, caravans. And I know Colin, in our own That Leisure Shop down at Chelston Motorhomes, is using all of these on his cars. And I must admit, I've been using some of them on my car too. And they're brilliant. This is my favourite one. This is the citrus bug remover. And they are designed for a kinder clean. Means that we've tried to keep them as close to environmentally friendly as we possibly can. And this one is lemon. This is lemon zest. And you spray it on the bug and leave it. And the lemon just rots the dead bug's body that's on your bonnet. And you just wipe it off. It's amazing.
Lovely.
Poor bug.
Lemon entry, my dear Watson. You know the joke?
No, not again. The last thing, yeah, we all know that one. And this is luxury body shampoo. There's a joke in there for you, Keith. It removes your hair,
Not
as you
enough
can
there
see.
For me.
So this is brilliant. Squirt this in a bucket of warm water. It lathers up and really lifts the dirt on the van. And this one has been a hero product too, the black street remover. They are so annoying. You've spent hours washing the van, drive down the road, and suddenly you've got black lines running down the side as the dirt comes off the roof or comes out of the sun canopy, the awning. This is amazing. Spray it on and just wipe it. Our guys at Motorhome Holiday Company, we hire and sell motorhomes using this all the time, just to give the motorhomes a little tweak to make them look clean and new again.
Lovely and nice colours. If you're watching,
they are really colourful.
In colour, which of course we all like, but they're lovely colours.
Helps you tell them apart. Once you learn the product range, the window and glass cleaner is superb. You can use this on glass or PVC plastic windows.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Because a lot of the materials in motorhomes aren't the standard stuff that they use in, say, motor cars, are they? You do have specialist compounds, and so these, I presume, are friendly to those as well.
They are. A lot of them contain soap, so they're not pH neutral, because they can't be. That is water, and that would be a rubbish product, frankly. Mind you, we pay enough money to drink it out of a plastic bottle, don't we? So this has got soap in it and other chemicals too. As I say, this one contains lemon, so they are all safe to us. You shouldn't be ingesting them, but they are safe to use on a motorhome or caravan where plastic is prevalent. That's the important bit. They won't stain it, because products like bleach are really, really dangerous.
It's those things, those seals that you were talking about a few podcasts away. It's not the sealant we use in the bathrooms, as Matt quite vociferously pointed out to me. It's specialist stuff. So these are okay with those seals?
Only because you were going to go to B&Q and then potentially reseal a motorhome with silicone sealant from your local DIY shop.
Other DIY shops are available.
Good old BBC kicking in again. Well done. So, and this one's great as well, dash and trim cleaner. This is really good. So you've got that plastic dashboard, you use it in the car, and they just dull, or you get loads of fingerprints on them, or bacteria on them as well. And you spray this on, give it a wipe, and gives it a clean and a shine. So it's really clever. So the team at That Leisure Shop, we spent ages working with our provider and the manufacturer that makes these for us, and they make them on a huge industrial scale. And so we've brought them to the market, all suitably named, and as you say, beautifully coloured, so you can help tell them apart. And you can get yours at thatleisureshop.com.
And the prices, Matt, I know we don't want to discuss individual prices for individual bottles, but it's not silly professional prices. These are within the reach of the normal caravan or a motorhome, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. They start under £5 up to £10. So they're really affordable, and they really are effective and designed to do the job that you want them to do.
It's the Motorhome Matt Podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
It's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe. The main part of today's podcast, Motorhome.Finance. We have covered it before, but raising the money for your pride and joy is the big thing. And particularly at today's prices, they're big prices. So financing your motorhome purchase, not everybody has got £50,000 lying around and more. Is that why we're discussing this?
It is. So screen prices are on the up. I think we've established this year they're not coming down anytime soon. That's been backed up by our chat with Bailey, a manufacturer, and numerous dealers who are not seeing prices coming down. And also conversations I've been having with dealerships who are starting to see more people asking about finance. We call it finance penetration, and it's always been really low in this market because people come to it with a nest egg. They've sold a house, an inheritance.
A pension drawdown.
A pension drawdown, that's the big one. And of course, things are changing. That demographic is changing that's coming to buy a motorhome, and so finance becomes an option. And I wanted to revisit this and really unpack the different types of finance that you could utilise to buy this aspirational product, and also to revisit the recent Supreme Court ruling where finance in general made the High Court and made the national news. So I was allowed by Warners to invite Stephen Blake, who is the head of sales at Creative Funding Solutions, onto stage at the recent Malvern show, and we did exactly that.
I'm of the view that finance in the motorhome realm, and I'm sure you'll agree, Steve, is not very prevalent. So we call it penetration in the market. So I reckon I have a conversation with people looking to buy a motorhome about finance, 1 in every 10 motorhomes that we sell back in my business. And they often manage to magic the funds from a credit card, a gran, a pension early payout, or maybe their mortgage. But very rarely do we do motorhome finance. But the market's changing. And screen prices, as I'm sure you know, are going up. And ability to afford, particularly a brand new motorhome, is becoming harder as they become more and more expensive. And I think we're going to see that change. I think we're going to see more penetration into the market of finance. I think more and more people are going to be prepared to borrow money to buy a motorhome. And it's interesting, looking at those of you here today, there's an average age which is much younger than the typical age group, you're welcome sir, than the typical age group that would buy a motorhome. And that typical age group, our parents or grandparents, typically wouldn't borrow. They don't like borrowing money. I'll buy it when I've got the cash. But I think we're a generation that are prepared to compromise in that value and are prepared to buy it with someone else's money. But it's all about how affordable is it. And there are loads of ways you can do it. And we're going to unpack with Steve how we do that. So what's the big benefit then of taking finance, Steve, would you say, other than spreading the cost?
Yeah, I mean, I think as you've said in a number of your podcasts, the screen prices are going up and up all the time. And the truth of the matter is now that a lot of people just don't have 50, 60, 80, £100,000 plus just sitting there. And even if they do, a lot of people have got money maybe invested in a pension pot, an ISA, other investments which are working for them in other ways.
Yeah.
So even for those people, they will want potentially to take finance. So yes, it is clearly the biggest benefit is spreading the cost and being able to get into a quality of vehicle that you wouldn't otherwise be able to if you didn't have 60, 70, 80, 90,000 pounds sitting there.
Yeah.
So some people call finance sort of a necessary evil, if you like. We try and unpack that a bit better, that we give good advice, we give fair solutions, we will understand what a customer wants from their finance package and take them through the journey. But a lot of people like the latest models, that they want to upgrade, and sometimes that comes too far for their immediate cash reserves.
Yeah. So just tell us a bit about the business you represent then, because you're a broker, you're not the actual lender, you're not the man with pots of cash. No. You're kind of the middleman. Just
exactly
explain
right.
that.
Yes, we're a broker, so we have a large panel of funders. So Motorhome.Finance is part of the Creative Funding Solutions empire. That sounds rather grand, but if I use that phrase. So we've got a panel of over 60 funders. We do all sorts of funding for different sectors. A very large sector for us is commercial vehicles. We do a huge amount of leisure vehicle finance. We also fund plant machinery equipment. So we do a lot of consumer finance for things like motorhomes, campervans, caravans, but we do lots of other finance as well, working with a panel of funders. So we get the customer's application, we do due diligence to decide which of our funders is the most suitable for the applicant to go to, and we'll send the finance to that send the customer to the funder, hopefully for an approval first time round.
So your role then really is about pairing the finance product with the consumer's needs and wants in terms of term, the age of the vehicle, their age, because I assume there's a cut-off point when it comes to age where someone can only borrow for so long?
Some funders, yes. Some no. I think some funders have taken the view that it's not a good look to be ageist on this thing. And we have some that will look at if it's an older applicant, what the pension arrangements look like. Is there affordability for the lend? And they're not really looking at age. There is one or two that do have a cut-off. Whether they should or not is a conversation. Yeah. But yes, which funder we would go to would depend on lots of different parameters. It could be the type of assets. So motorhomes could be slightly different from campervans, could be slightly different from a touring caravan. How long the finance is required for, how old is the asset at the time of starting the agreement could be another option, and also how long the customer wants to fund over. So there's a number of parameters that go into the decision making on which funder the deal goes to.
Yeah, and that's where you as a broker have that expertise to help steer that, isn't it?
Indeed.
So can we talk about the different types of finance? I mentioned mortgage, I mentioned pension, they're fairly obvious ones, but in terms of borrowing money, there's lots of different ways and models and structures that we can do that. One we're probably all familiar with because we've bought cars or we've seen it in car garages is HP.
Yep.
So can you just explain for us what is HP and how does it work?
HP, hire purchase. So you take, it's exactly as it says. You hire the vehicle, in this case hire from the funder, and you purchase it when the finance is paid for. So let's say you do a 10-year finance agreement. The owner of that vehicle remains the finance company until you've made the last payment. You're the registered keeper of the vehicle, but the owner, from an ownership point of view, is the funder. And for anyone that's heard of an HPI registration, they'll put a register against the vehicle, a marker that shows that the particular funder has an HPI registered against it. Yeah. And that is absolutely critical when it comes to resale, because clearly I know we'll come on to that later, but you clearly can't sell a motorhome that you own if it's on finance.
No, because there will be a peg against it.
Without settling the existing finance first.
And I guess one of the big benefits is fixed monthly payments, so it's a fixed term, the interest rate.
Fixed term, fixed interest rates. So you could say, well, the interest rates could go up, they could go down. Interest rates are relatively sensible at the moment, dropping very slightly. So it's great for individuals or couples that want to budget, certainly. And with you can put down minimal deposits as well on a lot of these agreements. So limited outlay initially, and then sensible monthly payments in the case of motorhomes, up to a 15-year period now. The term is extended even further. You can, subject to age, you can do a motorhome on an up to 15-year finance agreement now.
Now, on that though, the motorhome can't be more than 20 years old at the end of the agreement. Is that right?
That's the one that's best known. With a lot of funders, that is the case. Some of them have slight nuances one way or the other, but yes. So, for example, you're quite right, 20 years end of term, so you could fund a 10-year-old vehicle now over a 10-year term, a 15-year-old vehicle over 5 years, etc.
Yeah, got it. Okay. What about PCP? We see PCP everywhere when it comes to cars. Just don't really see it in the motorhome world.
No, I think that's because of the extended term. So PCP would obviously be generally a 4-year agreement with a balloon payment at the end. You can hand the car back at the end of the term. The truth is, a 10 and particularly a 15-year finance term, the monthly payments will be way lower than a PCP would be, because that would only be a 5-year term with a balloon. The balloons are set fairly modestly as well. Okay. So a 10, 15-year term would be a much lower monthly payment, and the customer would still have the consumer rights in terms of early settlement as well. So it's not like if they take a longer term agreement, they'd be heavily penalised if they wanted to settle early.
So PCPs are generally shorter term.
They are. Don't forget, a PCP comes with a mileage restriction, annual mileage restriction as well, and has handback conditions as well in terms of properly serviced. So there's certain things you need to keep up to date and be mindful of, whereas an HP you use as you wish, in effect.
Interesting. Okay. And do you think that's why then we don't really see PCP as very prevalent in this market?
I would say they're the reasons, yeah. The longer term solution, the reason it's more popular in the car market, there isn't a longer term solution. I know of no funders that do 10, 15 year finance terms on standard used cars, for example.
No, that's quite unique to motorhomes, really, isn't it?
It is indeed. Yeah.
Now, with PCP and with hire purchase, the finance is secured against the vehicle.
Correct.
So the lender, as you say, they own that vehicle.
Yes.
So they've got security of that vehicle. If you stop paying, they just come and take it back. If you were to take a personal loan, that isn't the case, is it?
No,
the finance is pegged to you.
It is. There's no, in effect, with a personal loan, the personal loan provider pays, if you're approved, they pay the money into your bank account. It's your money to do as you please with. Yeah. It's not secured on the vehicle. There's no recourse back to the vehicle. You're approved for the personal loan, you get the money, it's in your account, you pay the dealer for the vehicle. Nothing secured on the vehicle at all in that situation, though.
But that seems to be for the benefit of the lender. I don't really care. I mean, that's their agenda, not mine. So it's surely a personal loan's a better way of doing it, is it not?
It would be, but the issue with personal loan is generally the maximum term on a personal loan is 5 years. Occasionally you'll see 7 years. Right. Maximum lend on a personal loan with a lot of funders is 25,000, occasionally 35,000. I mean, you're talking figures way in excess of that on a lot of motorhomes, camper vans.
So high monthly repayments is what you're saying.
So if you wouldn't be able to get a personal loan generally for over 35,000. And even if you could get a loan for 70, 80,000 over 5 years, the monthly payment is going to be like a second mortgage. So that's really. So
hire purchase then is cheaper, although longer term you pay more interest, but it's still, is it going to be cheaper in the long run than a personal loan?
It depends how you define cheaper. Is it going to be cheaper in terms of the amount of interest you pay? No. As you say, you will pay more interest. Yeah. But somebody who may be comfortable at £400 a month may not be comfortable at £1,000 a month. Massive difference. So it's that walking a tightrope between your monthly payments and how much you're paying. And we have these conversations with customers, and with some customers it might be beneficial to find the middle ground. Maybe not a 5-year deal, not a 15-year deal with 8-9 years. Does that fix the monthly payment? Well, it's expensive for us, but we can manage that. Okay, well, you'll pay less interest overall because the term is shorter. Yeah. So these are the conversations we have with customers to try and find the best fit for them.
Now, I was reading the other day that 100% mortgages are back, which I find incredible. So is a remortgage an option where we borrow against the house?
Yeah, you can second charge mortgage, particularly. We do have some customers that do that. Now, I understand that is not everybody's cup of tea at all, to take out a second mortgage for a motorhome purchase, but there are customers that have got a lot of equity in their house. The rates are typically lower. You could fund it over a 20, 25-year period if you wanted to. Yeah. So it is an option, and we can provide second charge mortgages or other secured products on property to buy these particularly more expensive motorhomes. There are some legals required in that in terms of the paperwork, so that's not a product that you'd be able to tie up in 48 hours.
No. And presumably the original mortgage lender is going to have a view on this as well?
If it's a second charge mortgage, that the first charge mortgage holder would want to know what the situation is, be made aware. They may accept, they may decline. I mean, at the end of the day, let's say you live in a £600,000 house with you've got a 150 grand mortgage and you want to put another 100 on. There's no reason at all why the first charge mortgage provider should have an issue there. It would only there's plenty there. It's only if it's tight to the loan to value on the property they may have an issue. Okay. But that's case by case basis stuff.
And the other thing I read as well is 0% credit cards. They're becoming more and more prolific as people try. The lenders try and entice the consumer in. I can get 0% for 18 months in an offer I was recently given in the post, apparently. Is that something worth considering? I mean, there's no interest then.
It's worth considering. I mean, clearly, if you're buying 60, 70, 80, 90,000, you're going to need one hell of a credit card limit to fund that.
True. And afford the monthly payments.
And for the monthly payments as well, of course. And then, obviously, most of these credit card companies, when you're past the initial 0% period, there's a very healthy
27%.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would say proceed with caution on that basis.
Yeah, I would agree. And we talk about regulation. The FCA, the Financial Conduct Authority, we're not going to deep dive into who they are and what they do because it is frankly more boring than the topic of motorhome finance. But imperative.
Thanks, Matt.
You're welcome. But it's imperative that we understand what it's all about.
Yeah.
And the FCA exists for our benefit, the consumer, don't they?
Yep.
Can we just talk about the differences between regulated and non-regulated lends?
Absolutely, yeah. So regulated is really consumer finance. So if it's Mr. Smith, Mrs. Smith buying a motorhome in their or their own names, that's a regulated finance agreement. Non-regulated is business finance. To keep it in simple terms. So if you wanted to finance a motorhome through your limited company, that would be a non-regulated. That would be outside Consumer Credit Act. So The vast majority of customers, obviously, in the leisure space are consumers. So 99% of the agreements written would be regulated.
But if you want to hire the motorhome out, it becomes a business lend.
Oh, okay, that's a can of worms, that one. So yeah, I'll unpack that one for you a bit. We have quite a lot of customers, quite a lot, a small percentage, but over the course of a year, it works out to be quite a few. That they come to us and say, I've got a hire purchase agreement in my name on my motorhome, my camper van. I want to start hiring it out. Can I do it? So the answer to that question, if you read the finance document, is no. The truth is, if you want to hire it out to friends and family, there's no financial gain there. I think the cut-off is when there's a financial gain comes into it.
Okay.
If you want to... Because some of you might have heard of Go Booney, which have the model of...
Well, they're like an Airbnb
platform for campers.
Yeah, there's lots of them.
We've had conversations with them as well. That model doesn't... From a finance point of view, that model doesn't work. The only way that model works is if you set up a company, ABC Motorhome Hire Limited, and get a proper set of terms and conditions, like you would if you went to hire a van for the weekend. You'd have to sign terms and conditions for it. Have a proper contract, then a funder will look at that and will potentially approve you for finance in the limited company name because you've satisfied the terms and conditions. Make sure in the event that the customer walks away with your motorhome or it's a write-off, you've got a watertight contract in place.
I've borrowed money, I've taken HP through you, and we've got this motorhome. We're not using it anywhere near as much as we thought we might. And we've been looking at hire and think, gosh, we could make $1,000 a week here. Easy money. You know, we just give the keys to this couple we've never met and off they go. You know, I make it sound daft. But and I have a motorhome hire business, so I know what it's like. But what you're saying is it doesn't fit for the finance company, but how are they going to find out?
The truth is they're not going to find out. Highly unlikely. The only reason they'd find out is if you started to not pay. An example there, and they were starting to speak to you, and got to the point of wanting to repossess their asset, and they found out that their asset was 3,000 miles away in Greece or something,
Croatia.
Then it's a big problem. The truth is, if people don't tell us, there's nothing we can do about it, and we will crack on. But just if people want to act as per the terms and conditions and not get caught out and not have any risk, pretty much every regulated finance agreement will say an exclusion of usage is hire and reward.
Hire and reward, that's the key, isn't it? So word of wise there, if you're thinking of renting out your motorhome, don't do it. And with a non-regulated agreement, you don't have the options to pay it off early and not pay all the interest. Can you just unpack the benefits to us on a regulated agreement of that? So ending it early. So I've taken a 10-year term.
Yeah.
I've sold the van and I'm going to buy a boat. So I'm going to pay the finance off. A regulated agreement is very different to a non-regulated one.
Yeah, it is. On a regulated agreement, you're protected by the Consumer Credit Act. So if you can, On a regulated agreement, so you've got your monthly payment. Let's say you do a 10-year finance agreement, you've got your monthly payments. You can pay up to £8,000 a year over and above the monthly payments without penalty. So if someone, maybe someone gets a bonus once or twice a year, they can pay it off that way. If it's over £8,000 a year, the funder can charge 1% on the amount you're paying off, on the whole amount. So if you wanted to pay off £8,000 a year, there's no penalty. If you wanted to pay off £12,000 a year, you have a £120 fine, because it would be a 1% of the whole amount, just to be clear on that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to settlement, you're protected under the Consumer Credit Act rules on early settlement. Everybody on regulated has to apply by the same rules. So it's not like if I go to this funder, I might get a better settlement figure, or I go to this broker, the same rules will apply. So it's roughly 2 months penalty interest. There's a complicated, the actuarial method calculation, it's complicated. I wouldn't even begin to go into it.
Ballpark, my understanding is 2 months interest maximum.
It's slightly front-loaded. So if you, let's say you took out a 10-year finance agreement and wanted to settle it in month 2, it would be slightly more painful than if you wanted to settle it 3 or 4 years down the line. So if somebody knew they were going to settle a finance agreement after 6 months, don't take a 10-year finance agreement out.
No. Because we all understand that the first payments are all interest. It's 90-something% is interest.
You still get a large rebate under Consumer Credit Act rules, but but you would never be massively penalised on a regulated agreement. Non-regulated is different. Limited company funding, the gloves are off in terms of the funders. They can give you almost no rebate. So if you do a finance agreement in a limited company name and want to settle 2 years into a 5-year deal, that could be quite painful.
You might end up paying 3 years of interest.
Some have some rebates, but it'll be far more penal than if it was a regulated agreement. Put it that way.
And it's totally down to the lender's decision as to how much you pay, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have no protection at all from the FCA or the Consumer Credit Act.
No.
It's totally unprotected, and hence it's called non-regulated.
Yep.
So if you are looking at taking a business loan, be very aware of that, be very careful. Let's talk tier 2 lens. So that's what you call a weaker prospect for finance. So someone with maybe poor credit rating. A poor credit rating doesn't necessarily mean you're precluded from borrowing, does it? But it does mean the terms may not be so favourable.
It does. So there's a few things on that point. It depends how poor the credit is. That's one of the main things I'd say there. Some funders will take a view, if someone's had some missed payments or has had a bit of a problem with their credit file, but their affordability looks strong. So let's say they want to borrow £500 a month on the agreement, but they've got very good income. They'll probably not turn a blind eye, but they'll make a decision based on the fact that they've got income. A lot of the funders now are very driven by affordability, servicing the debt. If the funder thinks you can service the debt, they might take a bit of a view on, some missed payments here and there.
And affordability, that's quite a recent introduction by the FCA, isn't it?
Yeah, so funders will get, funders are under quite a lot of guidance now under responsible lending. So, we see with some ridiculous applications come through, a 21-year-old working, and I'm not joking here, 21-year-old working at Tesco's on 15 grand a year, wanting to buy 70 grand's worth of new Mercedes, for example. That's not going to fly. But even if it did fly, we would potentially be in hot water there under the rules of responsible lending, because clearly we would have helped service a debt that was way beyond the customer's profile.
Yeah.
But we have got homes for finance for customers who have had some missed payments and some difficulties. If someone's got loads of defaults, they haven't paid our hire purchase agreements, they've defaulted on credit cards, they've got county court judgments, that's probably not one for us.
No. Okay, and not one for anyone really.
Not one for anyone really.
No.
And if it is one for somebody, the interest rate would be absolutely exorbitant. And we, as Creative Motorhome Finance, we don't want to be going down that route with huge rate finance. That's not for us. We'll let someone else do that.
No. Now, you might have heard that finance has been in the national news very recently. In fact, it went to the Supreme Court. Can we just talk about that? So tell us what happened firstly with discretionary commissions, and what's been going on? Why has it been in the Supreme Court?
Yeah. We could probably spend 2 hours on this, Matt.
No, 2 minutes.
There would be no audience left at the end of it. But,
so what happened in 2021?
Discretionary commissions. So this was, up until 2021, car dealers and leisure dealers as well were... If a customer came in saying they want finance on my motorhome, the dealer would have discretion on what interest rate they would be given. Now, for example, let's say it was a customer who... The buzzword in the industry is it wasn't a sophisticated customer. They didn't have a knowledge of finance and how it worked. The dealer would see that as an opportunity for a higher rate of interest.
Charge more, yeah.
The next customer might come in, worked in financial services, financial advisor, knew their stuff. Same purchase, same vehicle, they might get a very different rate of interest. So what these
that
rules...
doesn't seem very fair.
Doesn't seem very fair. So what these rules... came in 2021 was to end the discretionary model of commission. So, for example, we now have to document based on customers' credit and the amount they're borrowing. Each customer gets the same outcome, and our funders will monitor us to check that we're giving those same outcomes.
Yeah.
There is a downside. It isn't fair for the person that pays more, but the truth is the downside of this is that now that there's no discretion, funders have now found the middle ground, which does mean that person with the best credit score isn't getting the rate they used to be getting. So it's not all a positive.
They're now paying more, yeah. And then it recently went to the Supreme Court this has massively affected you and your business, where those commissions that were paid, whilst there was a commission declared, so you've borrowed money from a dealer and you know they're earning commission. We accept that, don't we? I think that's fair enough. They didn't have to tell you how much it was in pounds and pence. And what was thrown at the industry, and this is not just motorhomes, cars, beds, any kind of consumer credit, is that the provider, the broker and the dealer had to declare how much they were going to earn in pounds. And the risk was this went to the Supreme Court and you'd have to refund all that commission back to, quite a long way back. The
funders would have, not us fortunately, but
okay,
but the truth of the matter is, just a potted story on that. So this was 3 individuals that sort of clubbed together to make a case that they were either not told the commission or not told clearly enough. They took it to the High Court, lost, took it to the Court of Appeal, won, and that was a real shock to the industry because it was potentially going to be, is 20 years worth of finance payments going to have to be refunded to customers? I mean, that would have taken a lot of funders and brokers to the wall.
Yeah.
Although some customers would have got money off the back of that, I'm not sure that would have been great news for the consumer in the long term, because there'd have been lack of choice. Funders would have pulled away from the market.
Yeah, they'd all gone, pulled out the market.
And those that remained would have been charging a lot more. So it goes both ways. But when it went to the Supreme Court ruled against 2 of the customers, but one customer they did agree with because he was charged, I think it was 55% of the total interest charges was a commission. I mean, from our point of view, if those sort of sharks, to use the no better word, are going to be found out, then all well and good.
All well and good. Yeah. I wonder what he bought.
Yeah, I think it was like a £5,000 or £6,000 used car. It was a very small deal, but I think the guy had poor credit, and I think the dealer probably saw it as an opportunity to go far too far on the
cream them for the commission.
Absolutely.
So going forward, then there's going to be more transparency.
Yep.
When we borrow money to purchase anything like a motorhome or a sofa, you're going to be asked to sign a declaration that confirms the amount of money that supplier is going to be paid in commission. That's right, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and that's the whole deal. It's all about transparency. Like on deals that we write with customers, we tell them how much they're borrowing, what the rate is, what the monthly payments are, what their rights are, and what the commission is that we'll be earning from the funder. Yeah. So it's complete transparency, and we have no issue with it.
I had first-hand experience of this. In our business, we borrowed some money, which we do all the time, to fund motorhomes and so on. And the broker that was brokering the money for us said, I need you to sign this declaration. I thought, this would be interesting. And it was. He was earning 1,500 quid. Before, I never knew that. I didn't have to sign anything. I just accepted he was earning a commission, and now I know what he's earning, and I've gone and worked it out. If he's lending 10 people 1,500 quid a week, he's doing pretty well. And I thought, I'm in the wrong game.
Yeah,
Maybe I should become a broker.
That's obviously that's the equivalent of, I suppose, a profit on a motorhome sale. It's a gross income, of course.
Well, maybe that will come to that, where the profit has to be declared. Oh, that would be a game changer, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Let's talk about interest rates. So the benefits of fixed versus variable. With an HP, we know it's fixed. But are there merits, pros and cons to either or?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't really got a variable rate product in the leisure space. Obviously, you could do a second charge mortgage, perhaps on a variable rate. We don't see much of that. Rates seem relatively static at the moment. I've been in this sector 10 years. I've been in finance 30 years. I can tell you on one hand the number of variable rate deals we've done.
Right.
So certainly in the leisure space, not a driver at all.
No. So fixed interest rates makes it affordable in the sense that we can plan. So we know it's going to be, you gave the example, £400 a month. It's going to be that for 10 years.
Yep.
Which with inflation, it becomes cheaper over time, I guess.
And of course, overpayments can be made to bring that
overpayments
down as well.
Yeah. But then, of course, you talk about affordability. We need to budget for other things, don't we, in terms of running the motorhome, because it has other costs. So insurance is one.
Yep.
Servicing. What other costs do we need to consider? Do you want us to consider when considering affordability?
Yeah, I mean, funders, I don't think will drill down in quite that level of detail. Yeah, of course, there's lots of ongoing costs, like maybe an ongoing warranty, extended warranty. You've got your fuel, your ongoing maintenance. The funders won't look at that from an affordability perspective. They'll keep it quite simple on, okay, this is the cost of the vehicle, this is the deposit, this is how much they want to borrow, over how long can they afford it. They won't factor in other sort of sundry costs.
And then the can they afford it bit, how's that determined? I mean, they ask for 6 months bank statements and they see all your other outgoings and then they work out what's left.
Yeah, so some of the funders will automatically associate certain outgoings to customers by looking at ONS data. So they'll say, well, the Office of National Statistics say that people spend average this amount on a holiday, average this amount on this amount on that. And then they'll ask questions regarding, do you have any dependents in terms of childcare or whatever it might be?
Yeah.
Look at the income. Look at an important part of this is looking at other outstanding debt as well. So somebody might have a very good income, but they might have 3 credit cards maxed out. They might have 2 hire purchase agreements. The funding phrase for that is heavily committed. Already heavily committed, and somebody we see it quite often, someone with a good income is actually turned down because the funder believes they're over committed with current arrangements.
And also my understanding too is if you've got available credit to you, so I've got a credit card that I don't use, and I think there's a 20 grand limit on it, I don't use it, but that could weaken my case to apply for finance, because I could go and use this 20 grand and suddenly become overcommitted once you've said yes. Is that a risk?
Yeah, I mean, I think funders will look at, if you've got several credit cards, it's all down to track record and history. So if you've got, say you've had over the years 2 or 3 hire purchase agreements and you've always paid them, that's a massive tick in the box.
Right.
If you've got a credit card, if you don't use it at all, that's probably almost like a neutral on your credit score. But if let's say you put 500 quid a month on the credit card, but you pay it off every month, that shows like good planning from financing point of view. So that would definitely be a positive.
Yeah.
Paying your mortgage every month is clearly a big positive. Being on the electoral register is an important one as well. Mm-hmm. So there's lots of things that go into making a credit
would you
score.
say in the lead up to applying for any finance for anything really, it's good practice to do that? So put your weekly shop on the credit card and pay it off to show that you've got respectable behaviour when it comes to borrowing and paying.
Or something. Would I ever encourage someone to put money on a credit card? I suppose if you definitely have the means to pay it off, then yes, what you don't want to do is to leave outstanding balances on the credit card if you can avoid it. Because rather than competitive APR on a hire purchase agreement, you're paying, as you said earlier, 20 whatever on a credit card. You don't really want to be doing that.
No, sure. The other thing I want to ask you about, Steve, is a deposit. So as traditionally, if you're applying for finance, it would be expected you would put 20% down on a brand new motorhome and maybe 10% down on a used one. But that's not necessarily the requirement, is it?
No, I mean, we do zero deposit deals on both new and used motorhomes,
Really?
camper vans, caravans. It's all down to the affordability. If you're buying a 100 grand motorhome and you say you don't want to put any deposit down, that's clearly going to be the funder's going to have to be fairly comfortable with the credit profile. But if you demonstrate through your credit search and you can demonstrate via your pay slips or whatever, your income supports it, they'll do it. It's income driven.
Right. Okay. So the value of the deposit is not a leveraging factor to whether you'll get lent to.
Yeah, I mean, there's some variation between funders. Some funders will want a deposit. And there's one of the mainstream ones I know will want a minimum of £1,000. But if you're buying a 100 grand vehicle and you can't come up with £1,000, you probably want
something looks dodgy already.
You think maybe that's not quite the right purchase. But everyone has their circumstances.
I'd like to dip into consumer protection and just bust a couple of myths. I think. We get a cooling off period of 14 days after we've bought the motorhome or we've taken the finance, or are they the same thing?
It's from signing of the finance document, I believe. Execution of the finance document, I think, is the answer. Oh, you're testing me on that one. I think execution of the finance document, I think, yeah.
Okay, so there is a 14-day cooling off. We can say, no, I don't want it.
Yep.
And obviously, if you've got the motorhome at that point, you've got a problem. You've got to fund it. But what about, let's talk about fit for purpose. This is a phrase that Facebook loves. It's not fit for purpose. And I've known dealers where a customer's gone back in and there's a problem with the motorhome. And they say, it's not fit for purpose. And the dealer said, well, why didn't you bring it back 2 weeks ago? Oh, we were down in Croatia on holiday in it. It's like, but it's not fit for purpose. And you've just had 6 weeks in it. How is it not fit for purpose? If you take finance on a motorhome, though, you get far stronger rights with a dealer when it comes to fit for purpose and the potential of having it resolved and returning it. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, this is general MQ, merchantable quality issues, is what the industry terminology.
So how involved would a finance company get in a situation where I've got a problem with my fridge, my tap leaks, my roof light isn't closing properly, I've got this long list of things. How involved does a lender get?
So the lender would get involved. Clearly the first port of call is, can the dealer fix the outstanding issues? Most people wouldn't go straight to the lender, of course. They go back to the dealer and say, I've got X, Y, Z wrong with the vehicle. Can you fix it satisfactorily? A lot of the time that'll be a yes. Occasionally that'll be a no. And if that becomes a no, then there's the potential to have to unwind the finance agreement. The lender will want both sides of the story in writing in that scenario. So they'll want a timeline from the dealer as to what they've done to repair and when they've done it. And they'll want from the customer a timeline of what the issues are and how they came about. Were they there at the... This is where the timeline thing becomes quite interesting.
Unpack the timeline for us. So they've got 30 days.
30 days. If there's issues with the vehicle within 30 days, they can hand it back and wave bye-bye. Simple as that.
Well, even if the dealer offers to repair them?
Well, within the first 30 days, they can reject.
Right, okay.
Between 30 days and 6 months, they have to give the dealer an opportunity to put right any outstanding issues. If they do, great. I mean, we get a lot of these all the time. Probably 95% of the time, agreement is found and the repairs are done satisfactorily, fortunately. But occasionally you get some that stick. And in that scenario, the funder would need to get involved, and then we'd have to try and, if the funder agreed with the customer, all parties would have to return the customer to the same position they were in before they took the agreement out, return deposit and everything, put them back to the same position they were before they walked into the dealership, in effect.
Okay.
After 6 months, the onus is on the customer to prove that the issue was there with the vehicle at the point of purchase and not subsequently. That's a tough one.
Okay.
You can imagine some of the, well, it was, well, it wasn't. You can imagine some of the toings and froings on that.
So it's important then, if you are having challenges with a motorhome and you've got finance on it or not, it's important that you're documenting emails and you are reporting in writing the issue, so things are date stamped.
Hearsay is absolutely no good in these sort of scenarios. Absolutely, right. It has to be documented.
The lender is going to want to see that written, dated evidence from both sides.
100%.
Okay, and how involved will they get? Will they step in and start a conversation with the dealer and with you, the consumer?
Yeah, and obviously as a broker, us as well, we'll all try and find agreement. It might be that all parties might have to come to the table to get a resolution. If the funder says, well, we partially agree with the customer, we'll give X, and the customer says, well, no, that's still not good enough, the customer then has the right to take the whole matter to the financial ombudsman, and they'll make a ruling. Right. There. So there's various approaches, but the timeline is slightly different depending on at what point you're raising the issue for the first time.
So would you say then that it's beneficial putting your product on finance or some element of it to give you better protection if something goes wrong?
Yes, would definitely be a benefit. I mean, you have to be careful on that because some funders, let's say you came to us and said, well, I'm buying a 90 grand motorhome, but the only reason I'm putting it on finance is because I want the protection. So I'm going to give you an 87 grand deposit and I'm going to finance 3 grand. And we do see this happening occasionally.
Really?
That we probably wouldn't be overly keen to transact that deal, in truth. We would if we needed to, but you know, in the same way as a motor dealer's income is the sale of the vehicle, our income is commission from the funder. That's our income stream.
And if it's unstitched, that's all refunded.
And if it's unstitched early, that's a paper pushing exercise. But if somebody says, listen, I want to finance half of this because I'd like to finance half of it, but B, because it gives me that extra protection, no problem. Let's crack on, yeah.
Right, okay. Let's talk about selling a motorhome. So I've bought my motorhome and it was 90 grand new and I've put 50 grand of it on finance and it's 10-year term, but 3 years later I want to sell it and there's finance on it. Now, I've decided I'm going to sell it privately because I was lowballed an offer by the dealer, so I think I can get more for it privately, and I'm happy dealing with tyre kickers who don't turn up. You know, that's my risk. How do I sell it with the finance on? Because I haven't got the settlement figure in the bank to pay it off.
That's a challenging one. So, in most cases, you're probably not going to be dealing with a customer that is prepared to pay you the balance to clear.
But could they pay you, the lender?
No.
And then pay me the balance. So they pay my finance off and then I pay the balance off.
The lender will want clear title before as soon as they will not pay a deal out until there says clear title. Remember that the funder is showing an HPI interest on the vehicle.
Yeah. So you've got an HPI footprint on it.
Yep. The funder won't pay it out with another HPI footprint.
I'm selling it for 3 years later, let's say 50 grand for grand numbers. Your settlement figure to me is 30 grand. And I'm selling it to this gentleman here. And I said, look, there's 30 grand left to pay on my finance. Here's the settlement figure. Yep. If you pay Steve 30 grand and get rid of the finance, in a week, the HPI footprint's going to disappear because you say, we no longer got any interest in this vehicle, but you're buying it from me for 50. So then give me the 20 grand and it's yours. Can I do that?
You could do that. There's a bit of trust, isn't there, on the part of the person paying the settlement figure off that you're not going to disappear in the meantime.
Well, this gentleman's going to ring you first and he's going to have a direct conversation with you to confirm the settlement figure and that you're bona fide and, you know, am I allowed to do that though?
Yeah, funders would allow another party to pay off the settlement, but be mindful of the fact that funders will always check a vehicle for HPI clearance before they will release funds on it.
Yes. So if the gentleman's borrowing to buy it, we got a problem. So will his lender pay you?
Will his lender pay us as the broker?
Or pay your my lender who was brokered through you?
No.
They won't. So a lender won't pay another lender?
No. Not in the consumer space. They will on commercial finance, not in the consumer space.
So even if I've borrowed from you and you've set me up with, I don't know, let's say Close Brothers, and the gentleman says, I've got finance with Close Brothers before and I'm going to do Close Brothers, they won't pay themselves off.
You could probably have a conversation with the funder if we're getting down to contra-settling an existing agreement with the same funder. You might get, that would be the only scenario that may work.
Okay.
Contra-settling, sorry, getting complicated here. Contra-settling between consumer funders is generally a no-no.
Right, okay, interesting. So when you're buying a motorhome, if you're buying one privately, you get an HPI check. They're tens of pounds, aren't they? And it will tell you if the vehicle's ever been written off and if there is still finance on it. And if there is, you know now what you need to do. Ideally, you want that HPI footprint cleaned off. It does take about a week, doesn't it, for the HPI database to catch up?
It does, but the funders will provide a settlement,
a
letter of clearance, which funders will accept, even if HPI hasn't updated. So that's not a problem.
Okay. So, Steve, you're a specialist broker. I mentioned Close Brothers. We can go direct to Close Brothers, can't we?
Yep.
And we could go, you go into a dealership, and often many dealerships have black horse signs everywhere. But you're a specialist broker, as you said, you have access to 90 lenders. What are the benefits of going to a specialist broker rather than the finance product offered by the dealer when we go in there?
I think one of the biggest benefits really is the fact that we'll have a conversation. This isn't a cheap used car purchase. This is in a lot of cases a very considered 70, 80, 100 grand purchase.
Yeah.
Customers want to understand the arrangements. Our sales team talk to people every day about the different options. We talked about the secured, the unsecured, the HP, the other scenarios that we've got, so the second charge mortgages. There's loads of options there. Just putting some figures into a computer isn't gonna. You're not gonna get any feedback there. We actually have a proper conversation with customers, and as well rates wise, because we do a hell of a lot of business with a lot of these consumer funders, we can often beat the dealer rate as well. Yeah. So it's a combination of competitive rates and actually some understanding of the process, the different products. You talked earlier about early settlement. What are the rules and how does that work? We'll give advice and give customers understanding on how that works. And people
can ring your team, can't they, and get advice?
Personal number, personal service. There's no big call centres at us.
No.
It's all we keep.
And one of the people that answer the phone is Steve's wife, who's the loveliest woman I've ever met, and she is super helpful. And if you ring up often, she'll answer the phone. So I can speak firsthand for this.
I shall pass that along.
Yeah, please. Yeah, make sure you tell her she owes me dinner. So one of the things I want to ask as well, Steve, is in terms of getting a quote from you, people can do that via your website, can't they? You can do it today on your phone. It's dead easy. You can go to Motorhome.Finance. So I've given it a plug for you.
Yep.
And you can put the value of the motorhome. So you could be looking at one today and say, well, I am going to put a deposit in and I want to borrow it over. You now know the 20-year, 15-year term, 20-year rule, end of term age, that is. And you say, well, I want to borrow this over 10 years. And it's 5 years old, so I can. And it will give you a monthly payment, won't it?
It will. It'll be a pretty accurate monthly payment. The only thing it won't take into account at that stage will, of course, be someone's credit banding because we haven't got to that point yet. That can affect the rate slightly, but it'll give you a very... If you're thinking, well, how much is 50 grand going to cost me to borrow over 10 years? It'll give you a very accurate picture of what that looks like.
It's actually a really useful tool because going around, if you're thinking, well, if I get an extra 20 grand, I can have that burst now. And you can go and find out really, really easily with absolutely no obligation at all.
It's quite dangerous because you're in a 120 grand vehicle before you know it.
You end up walking out with a far bigger, better motorhome than you came to buy. But then, even then, it's very easy to press apply, and then your wheels start turning, don't they?
Yeah, and it's important to say that if you do an application on our website, it comes through on our system. We will do a soft credit search. Now, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a credit search which doesn't show up on your credit file. So a hard credit search is a search which, if too many of them are done, will have a slight detrimental effect on your credit score because it looks like you're applying for finance all over the place. But we just do a soft credit search. We then have a conversation with the customer, understand what their requirements are, and then we'll choose what we believe is the best lender to put the application to. They will do a hard search, but it'll be one hard search. What we're definitely not, and some brokers give the industry a bad name, they'll get a customer and they'll fire the deal off to 6, 7, 8 funders at once. All of a sudden, you've got a whole load of hard credit searches, and you can bet if you do that often enough, it'll be the next person will be somebody that's just about to get their mortgage signed off, and you've all of a sudden you've got a problem.
You've got a hammered credit score. And is it worth applying for finance and going to a show like this or into a dealership to make a purchase with finance pre-approved?
Yeah, I think from the customer's point of view, they know that they can budget and purchase up to X amount for a vehicle. From the dealer's point of view, I hear people say, well, am I likely to get more money off my vehicle because I'm going in saying I've already got my finance approved elsewhere? The truth is, you're probably less likely to get money off the vehicle if you do that.
Well, because the dealers
because they want to sell their own finance.
Well, because they want the commission.
So I'm not really doing myself a favours by saying that, but that's the truth. But you might well find that our finance has been more competitive than what the dealers quoted anyway.
But also, it's about making yourself agile in terms of knowing what you can afford and realistically looking at motorhomes that you could buy rather than ones that are still a pipe dream. So I'd say, go and do a check and see what it would cost a month. And if you think you can afford it and you want to go to the next step, it's probably worth doing. What other tips would you give people as we wrap up in terms of gearing up for finance, in terms of choosing it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've covered some of it there already. In terms of your monthly payment, it would be easy to say, well, I can afford £500 a month, but if I take the finance over, say, 15-year term, I can get it for £350 a month. That's fine, but do factor in you're going to be paying a chunk more interest over the period. So I'd say, whatever you're comfortable with, fund up to that amount. Don't go a lot less just because you can extend the term years and years and years further. If you can afford £500 a month and you can do that over 6 years, do it. Yeah. Don't do £300 a month over 10 years.
No.
It'll cost you more in the long run.
But if you think, well, I can do 10 years, therefore I get another extra couple of £100. My £500 a month is going to go further in terms of the capital spend, the screen price.
Yep.
Then I guess being smart and understanding how much you're going to pay at the end of it. And let's face it, most of us aren't going to keep that motorhome for 10 years. We're going to keep it for 3 or 5 years.
Yes.
So budget how much interest am I going to pay for the time I'm going to have it.
Absolutely.
And budget 2 months interest as a penalty for paying it off early,
yes,
assuming it's regulated.
Yeah, and another thing will be, we do have quite a lot of customers that come to us and say, I paid my, because I knew I was going to apply for finance, I paid my credit cards off last week because my credit score will be better. The credit reference agencies take at least 6 to 8 weeks sometimes. Once you pay the credit card off, that's not an overnight update on your credit score by any means. It can be 2 months down the line sometimes before that shows up. So if you're going to apply for finance and you're paying off some things before you do it, give yourself a couple of months grace for that.
Yeah, brilliant.
So that's you and Stephen Blake. He's the sales manager at Creative Funding Solutions. A real insight there, Matt, about how you might finance your next or your first motorhome.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's really important to get clued up. Education is key here. So people often think, well, how am I going to raise 50 grand, 10 grand, 100 grand, whatever it might be? And so the team at Creative are super helpful. As we said, Steve is a broker and his team, they broker the deal. They're not the lender, so they will help find the right finance solution for you or advise you against one that they can offer and suggest you do something else. And you can find out more about them and go and do a no obligation quote on their website. If you're looking at a motor, I wonder what that would cost a month. Go to Motorhome.Finance. Simple as that, no co-UK, Motorhome.Finance, and go and check out their quotation tool and see what you might be able to afford and what it might cost.
If you want to check them out further, you can go to Motorhome Matt approved as well, because they are. That's the place, the list of companies and services that Matt has done his best to delve into what they do, what they provide and how they operate, and he's prepared to put his stamp of approval on it. It's at mhmp.info/creative. mhmp.info/creative. Matt, some people think VPNs are just for hiding what you're watching online. Is that really all they're made for?
No, not at all. A VPN, like Nord, is really about safety. So if you're on a campsite Wi-Fi, a coffee shop hotspot, or even using mobile data abroad, you don't know who else is on that network. Now, NordVPN protects your data so no one can snoop It keeps your banking safe and it stops your internet provider tracking what you're up to. And here's the thing. It's not about having anything to hide. It's about protection. It's like locking the door on your motorhome. Not because you've got gold bars inside, but because you don't want anyone poking around trying to steal your valuables.
I suppose that's a fair way of putting it.
Yeah, NordVPN is fast, easy to use, and runs quietly in the background. I use it every trip. Click the link in the description and you can try it with a discount and a 30-day money-back guarantee.
It's the Motorhome Matt Podcast. I'm Keith Gooden.
And I'm Motorhome Matt.
It's brought to you with thatleisureshop.com and sponsored by Ripe.
Remember, get 15% off your insurance premium by using the code Motorhome Matt over the phone, or simply click the link in the episode description.
It's our Q&A, the questions and answers. You ask the questions, and Matt, he's the expert. He will give the answers. If he doesn't know, he'll make jolly sure he finds somebody who does. First of all, Belinda is in Swindon.
Hi guys, this is a question for Matt. My name is Belinda and I live in Swindon. Towards the end of this year, I plan to buy a motorhome which I will be living in full time all year round. I am getting confused about which motorhomes are winterised or winterproofed, which have grade 3 insulation and which don't, or do they all have it? And do I need to install a diesel heater because it seems to be much cheaper than the gas? What should I be looking for? Please help and keep up the good work. Thank you.
Cheers, Belinda. Much appreciated. Thanks for the kind words. So I suppose that many motorhomes, to be honest with you, are made by European manufacturers. And in Europe, you don't spend so long in them as you do in the UK. So her question is quite relevant, isn't it?
Really relevant, yeah. But European motorhomes tend to be used all year round as well. So the Europeans holiday generally in short, sharp stints, and they are built to withstand really cold extremes. So if they're being sold into Scandinavia or Norway, obviously it's a lot colder than here, and their ability to carry weight on the roof in snow is also a factor. But that said, an increasing number of British-built motorhomes are being built for winter use and all-round use because it's a trend we're seeing here in this country. So the word winterised, though, is massively overused. What does it mean? It means different things according to different manufacturers. It fundamentally really is about the insulation in the van and how insulated is the water system. So where is the freshwater tank? Is it under the van or is it inside the van? Assuming you've got the heating on, you're not going to be -2 inside, therefore the fresh water isn't going to freeze. But where is the waste tank? Normally that's outside the van. Underneath, that is going to be very prone to freezing. But is it heated? There's a number of ways you can do that. You can either wrap the tank in warm air, you can blow warm air into the tank. Truma and Alder both do this, or you could buy a tank blanket, which is a stick-on pad that's a low voltage, generates warmth enough to get that water in the waste tank above 0 so it doesn't freeze. We've been skiing in a motorhome when the kids were younger, and we would leave the waste tap open, just pour warm water down the sink frequently so that it didn't freeze in the waste tank and would just come out on the ground or into a bucket, and then we would keep the waste tank empty. So being winterised, as I say, is fundamentally about that. What's the thermal capability of the walls in the motorhome? Grade 3 insulation is a rubber stamp that's physically a sticker on a motorhome or on the spec. So doing research is key, and this is where a motorhome is put, or a caravan is put into a cold chamber and is taken down to -21. We have a great episode with Lee from Alder, and he unpacks how this works and the tests that they undergo on motorhomes. So you can go and check that out and find out what the grade 3 heating test actually means. And then in terms of diesel heating, if you are going to be using it all year round, then it's a great accessory to have. It's not expensive. The Ecotherm heater is brilliant. If you're not sure where to go to get this installed or how it might be installed, talk to Bluefix. They are a fantastic company. Mark and Luke, super helpful with their team. They'll talk you through how to fit one and how one might be fitted into your van and the costs of doing so. And they are Motorhome Matt approved as well. They've fitted loads of them. So definitely talk to them. And I'd say that's a must-have accessory if you're going to consider using the van through the winter. And perhaps where gas is hard to come by, because that's the alternative energy source. And if you do contact Bluefix, make sure you say Motorhome Matt sent you.
Absolutely, 100%. Jane, we don't know where she is, but we do know she's Jane.
Hello there. My name is Jane. My husband's Kevin. We're picking up a new motorhome on Tuesday. And could you recommend a good insurance company? Because Kevin's having a problem at the moment. And also we want to get a lock for the steering wheel. I wonder if you could recommend that as well. Thank you, Matt. Bye.
Jane and Kev and Jane, picking up a new motorhome. Could we recommend an insurance company? We jolly well could.
Definitely check out Ripe. They sponsor this podcast and use the code Motorhome Matt. Go to mhmp.info/Ripe and you'll find their listing with us, and click the link and it will automatically apply the 15% discount. My recommendation if you are shopping around for insurance is don't go to these comparison sites because you could end up with a bank or a supermarket supplying insurance for a very specialist pastime. Go to an insurer that understands the product and has a motorhome or campervan specific cover. It means that they will cover European trips for extended periods. It means they will cover your contents. There's loads of stuff that motorhome specific insurers will cover that a traditional insurer that you might use for home insurance won't cover. So be wise to this and make sure you're asking for a motorhome or campervan specific cover. Steering wheel locks, Stronghold are a benchmark for any form of security, wheel clamps as well. I would favour, if you've got room for it when you're travelling, a lock that covers the entire steering wheel, like a big disc. You know the one? They're called a disc lock. And they go around the steering wheel and you can't get to the steering wheel. The risk is we want a bar that goes diagonally across. Great visual deterrent, but it would be possible to cut the steering wheel and remove it. If someone's got time and intent, they could do that. They've got to get in the motorhome, obviously, to do it. But a big circular disc one that's security approved by someone like Stronghold would be the one to go for. But they are big and bulky. Also remember, if you tell your insurance company you're fitting that, they might check with them. They might require you to have it fitted when you're on a campsite as well. So again, word to the wise. Yep,
and remember there are lots of different insurance companies, not just Ripe. Lots of brands in the market include Caravan Guard, Safeguard and CETA.
Yes, just many of them. Adrian Flux, there's lots out there. Even the Farmers Union, National Farmers, NFU will offer you a motorhome specific product, but that's the key. So shop around and find the one that is the best fit for you. And check out our episode with Ripe we recorded recently where Mel has come on and she unpacks why they may not be the best for you and what you should do to ensure you can get the best quote.
Yeah, and the one that stuck out for me from that episode was when people are going and getting a quote and they're asked what claims they've made, they've forgotten that they had a chip on the windscreen, and you have separate insurance cover, don't you, for your car, for windscreens, and you usually don't get penalised when you get charged your next premium, do you? So you go through it, you do it, and they come round, they fit the windscreen, and then an insurance company says, well, what claims have you had? And you just honestly forget to tell them.
None.
And then you're red flagged when they do the computer checks, and it's not your fault, it's not their fault, but remember, things like those windscreen changes do make a difference to your quote. Graham Robinson's in Guildford. Hi, Matt. Since coming across your podcast, I've been playing catch-up and found some excellent advice and information. We are brand new to this motorhome scene, although we have owned a narrowboat for some years, and so indulged in aquatic motorhoming. My question, probably daft, is, and there's no daft questions, we want to buy a cover for our Auto Trail F70. Simple enough, until I explain it has a solar panel on the roof, which I wish to use while the motorhome is not in use to keep the vehicle battery topped up. Do you know of any manufacturer of covers who make one with a clear roof panel so to allow the solar panel to work? Graham says many thanks. And that's the thing about solar panels, and people without them, and I have them, forget, is it's light. It's PV, it's photovoltaic. It's not the light, not the heat that charges your battery. So can you buy a cover with a window in it?
Yeah. You just want to go on about solar panels, don't you? We've started him off now. So yes, you can. And there are a number of manufacturers that would do them. Two I'm going to give a shout out to. Fantastic businesses. Specialised Covers. They do them, and tailor-made. Some of them these companies you'll find at shows. What you will need, Graham, is the dimensions of precisely where the panel is on the roof of the van, and they will create a clear panel, perspex panel, see-through panel, let's call it that, I'm not sure what it's made of, where the sun and these PVs can penetrate and keep the solar panel working. So they will do it. There are manufacturers that did make a front third, middle third, back third, and they were much cheaper, but I've not seen those around so much. But these two guys, Specialized and TaylorMade, will make a cover specifically for your motorhome, precisely where the panel is.
Matt, if someone's after a motorhome or just needs theirs looking after, where would you send them?
Well, I've gone to RV Supercentre for years whenever I've needed roller team spare parts in particular, so I know firsthand how helpful they are. They're not just about parts though, they're the UK's one-stop shop for motorhomes, whether you're buying new, used or even an ex-hire, if you're after great value.
And they do servicing as well, don't they?
Yep, full service centres, parts, accessories, bodywork repairs that are insurance approved, and they're NCC accredited workshops too. What I like is it's a small and super friendly team, but with nationwide sites. They're in Toddington, Edinburgh and Belfast. So they've got that local feel, but with a huge reach.
Sounds like the full package.
Exactly. You can find out more at rvsupercentre.co.uk, and we'll stick the link in the episode description too.
Okay, Matt, how do people get in touch?
We would love it if you did. I always say this, if you have a question, please ask it, because as Keith said, there is no such thing as a daft question, just the one you've got. So head to mhmp.info/ask Matt. You can fill in the form and we'll read it for you, or click the orange button and record it, but please tell us where in the world you are.
And if you're looking for trusted brands and services, then make sure you visit the Motorhome Matt approved directory. It's at mhmp.info/approved.
And remember to follow on your favourite podcast app, or if you're watching on YouTube, click subscribe and the little bell.